Reality check. JMU loses a ton of money trying to pretend to be big boy football. Chris Graham here for Augusta Free Press. So, if you follow the comments on YouTube, and I hope you don't because it's pointless, following comments on any website is an exercise in futility. But if you do, and if you've been, a JMU football fan decided to pick a dumb fight with me in the comment section on a YouTube video I posted last week on UVA football's poor season ticket sales and ticket sales in general and this empty seats in the stadium. And regular readers, regular viewers, regular people who follow Augusta Free Press in my media career know how I take to people picking dumb fights with me. There are more important things than dumb fights, but I am willing to engage if I'm dragged into it. Does not play well with others would be the note to my mom from the teacher. Now, this particular dumb fight was over a throwaway comment I'd made in the video and in the story I wrote for AFP last week about how the JMU-UVA game from 2023 drew more than 56,000 people to Scott Stadium. Now, the throwaway line, and I'll quote it here, the 2023 home opener with JMU drew 56,508 people to Scott Stadium, thanks in part to JMU Nation making the trek to the Big Boy Stadium. Now, I'm wondering what's inaccurate there because the JMU Stadium holds less than 25,000. And okay, so that was the observation. Okay. And then JMU, I mean, didn't even sell out its home opener this past weekend. So talk trash at your peril, I guess the way the word. I mean, if you can't even get your high school size stadium to capacity for your home opener, I don't know. What are you doing here? Now, at the risk of elevating an interwebs tough guy with literally no followers, I mean, you can act because I don't guess, if you're a guy like this particular fellow who, you have no followers on your YouTube account you set up in like 2014, that you would think someone would look at that, but I did because that's what I do. This guy who I'm not going to elevate because I'm not going to say his name, not going to link to the smart guy. He goaded me into feeling it necessary to put my SEO and Google magic to work into pointing out the obvious inconvenient truth about JMU football that it's a massive money loser. Per data from Sportico, which compiles uh, the IRS 990s for all the major college athletics programs that are public schools. I mean, so that's an important caveat, I guess. The Dukes and the Northwesterns and the schools that are private schools don't have to share their data publicly. And so, but the other schools like UVA, JMU, ODU, Virginia Tech, I mean, you insert name of school institution across the country here does have to report their numbers. And then this website, these folks at Sportico, among the many things they do, they write about the business of sports, but among the many things they do, they keep a tab on um, how college athletics programs rate against each other, how they perform, etc. So, okay, I wanted to preface that. Okay, so per data from this website, Sportico, which puts all this information together and makes it really, bite-sized, eatable, digestible. The JMU football program reported $4.5 million in football-related revenues in 2022-2023. That's the last year for which all of the full figures are available and have been compartmentalized. Now, I'm expecting any time in the next few weeks that the 2023-2024 numbers will be available. So we'll start using those pretty soon. But in 2022-2023, $4.5 million was the operating revenues for the JMU football program. The bulk of that was from ticket sales, 3.0 million. Because they're in JMU's in a conference that doesn't have a good TV contract. So 4.5 million in revenues. What were the expenses in 2022, 2023? 11.5 million. That means JMU football lost $7 million last year. Now, the old story is that in college athletics, the football program is your big money maker. In the case of JMU athletics, it's the big money loser. And the weird thing to me is, I mean, the commentary by this particular fellow was on a video that I made about a story that I had done where I was complaining about UVA football not filling up its stadium on Saturdays. Again, using Sportico, UVA football reported 51.2 million in revenues from football in 2022-2023. 51.2 million, not 4.5 million. That's what JMU's revenues were, 51.2 million, and 31.1 million in expenses. So UVA football actually made more than $20 million in 2022-2023. That's an operating surplus of over $20 million in 2022-2023. Not losing 7 million, actually bringing in $20 million. That's what pays for the rest of the program. All the non-revenue sports. So my issue with the 20,000 plus empties in Scott Stadium on Saturdays isn't that UVA is losing money because of all the empty seats. It's not that UVA athletics isn't making more money. That's my complaint. UVA football ticket sales, according to the Sportico data, were at 7.7 million in 2022-2023, and that's about half of what our ACC rivals, friendly rivals down the way in Blacksburg are bringing in. They brought in $15 million, and the average for the last 5 non-COVID years is similar. It's around $7.5 to $8 million for UVA. It's around 15 to 15.5 for Virginia Tech. And consider that it's not okay. You can't just say, "Oh, Virginia Tech played so much better in 2022." Both teams won 3 games that year. Tech just had more people in the seats. And the point I was making in the video and in the column that I wrote last week was that there's no reason why the athletics director at UVA, Carla Williams, who's been on the job for 7 years, and yes, she inherited a tough situation, but she's had 7 years to work her way through it. There's no reason she can't have as her top priority figuring out ways to get more people in the stands for home football games. But yet here we are. Okay, that was the whole point of my column and of my video. Meanwhile, there's JMU. I was not going to write about this. I was not going to talk about this, but I got goaded into it, and I'm going to do it. JMU made the leap from FCS to FBS in 2022, so that's a significant year. Football lost $7 million that year. Basketball lost $3 million. Men's basketball lost $3 million. Had less than $1 million in ticket sales that year. For reference, UVA in 2022-2023 ran a $4.4 million operating surplus, so it's a revenue maker as well. So what does JMU do to pay for its athletics if it's not making money on its 2 money-making sports? It has to turn to its students to fund the program. Per Sportico, JMU is far and away the leader nationally in the use of something called student activity fees to fund its athletics budget. 53.3 million, 23 million more than a second place school, which happens to be ODU, another Virginia state school. For more context, the entire JMU athletics budget for 2022-2023 was $68 million. So 78.4% of the money for JMU athletics came from student activity fees. Now, if you don't know exactly what they are, if you went to college, you might have even overlooked it if you didn't look at the line item on your tuition and fees and room and board expenses. I even back then was the kind of person who did look at that kind of thing. And certainly I do now as a journalist. For those out of the loop, though, those are dollars that get tacked onto your bills, your student loans, because most kids are paying money or borrowing money to go to college. So either they're paying the bills outright or they're borrowing the money to pay these student activity fees, and they'll be paying those back for years, if not decades, given how student loans end up being pushed aside, the way the loan companies screw with the kids and who as they become adults, etc. So that's all done so JMU can pretend to play big boy football. Isn't that great? And UVA is not immune. Virginia Tech's not immune. UVA reported $16.1 million in student activity fees to help fund and balance its $138.2 million overall budget for the 2022-2023 sports year. I write a column every summer where I get lathered up and say that these student fees being used to pay for the athletics budgets, it's unconscionable, and it should be banned by the General Assembly. Virginia Tech uses $13.6 million to balance its budget. Most schools do at least have some money going to this purpose. The few at the very top, the Texas A&Ms, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan's, very tippy top of the football ladder, they don't have to do it because they make enough money from football to not have to do it. But everybody else at least uses some. The further down the list you go, the more money 4-year athletics budget comes from these fees, but JMU is way out of whack with the rest of the FBS, the rest of Division One. It's completely and totally absurd. Now, again, I mentioned that, uh, I would love to see the Virginia General Assembly ban this in Virginia. I can't, maybe nationally you could ban it too, but certainly we could start at the state level and have the General Assembly tell UVA, tell Virginia Tech, tell ODU, what else, VCU, and then have to look up to see what VCU even does in this respect. They don't have a football program, so who knows if their numbers are quite out of whack. But all the state schools that use student activity fees, I think it would only be fair to not allow that to be the case. And if it means you got to cut a sport, or if it means you just got to go to your donors and get more money, one way or the other, you figure it out. But you figure it out without fleecing the kids, right? Um, Now that would be fatal for JMU because I mean they don't have a TV contract with their conference that's worth a crap. Unlike the UVA and Virginia Tech, which play in the ACC. I mean, the ACC's crying poverty, right? Because they don't make as much as the Big Ten or SEC, but they make a lot more than the Sun Belt, and so that's a reality. They don't make money playing their home games. $3 million in that 25,000 seat stadium for JMU football, 880,000 playing basketball in a basically brand new arena. I mean that arena should be making money, but it's not, and they don't have a donor base to keep up. So that's just what it is. So when I look back at that 2023 UVA JMU game that my friend with no followers on social media was wanting to have some fun with, much more important to JMU athletics than winning the game was that the check cleared. The report was that JMU was paid $550,000 to play that game. Maybe that check after it cleared meant JMU football would only lose about $6 million in 2023 instead of the $7 million it lost in 2022. That's just the reality there. The other reality, the J in JMU football stands for JV. It's okay to admit it, folks. Feel free to send me an email, comment on this particular video cast or any of my columns, anything else. The email address is chris@augustafreepress.com.